Hi there, Graham from Penguin Motors here. Today I'm going to bring you something slightly different. I'm going to bring you a BMW 2002 M10 engine. Not just any old M10 engine, a full race engine. So results could be interesting. So, most of you that know me from either this channel or the internet forums will know me for Ford engines. But in fact, although I've built quite a few, I've never raced anything with a Ford engine. All my own race cars have all been BMW powered. M10, S14, M20. So I know a thing or two about these engines. Now, this particular engine, it was not built by me. I've had it apart and refreshed it after it suffered a failure, but the spec is not mine, and I've merely re-ringed it, put it together with some fresh bearings, and made one or two very minor mods that should help reliability but won't have any effect on performance. Now, the last time this engine was rolling roaded was somewhere I know, and I've got to say, assuming it was the same engine, I'm slightly surprised at the power output. Now, the cam fitted is certainly capable of giving that much power, but given what I know about the internal spec, I'm a little bit surprised it made that much. But to be honest, it's not quite the same spec that I've ever run, so maybe it did. So when we get to the end, I might tell you what it made on the rolling road, and I'll show you what it makes here. So, what of the engine itself? Well, obviously, it's still a 2 litre, it's an M10, it's got a SCHRICK 316 cam, and I'll tell you now, I have had close on 200 horsepower from a 316 cam. So on the cam alone, it certainly should be capable of big numbers. We've got a 5-piece exhaust manifold, which is a bit of a strange design because you've got 3 short primaries and 1 really long one, but that is to clear the steering box on a right-hand drive car. The only slight difference here is I've had to make my own collector to clear the dyno. So, you know, that could shift the power output a couple of horsepower, maybe not. I don't think it'll have much effect, but we will see. The distributor, well, I don't know if it's modified, but I can tell you, looking at it, it's out of an E21 or really early E30. It is what it is. Carburetors, 48 DCOEs. Do a bit of gentle running, few gentle pulls, bed the rings, get the timing somewhere near right, then we can give it some beans. So, I'll catch you on the noisy side. So, how did we do? Well, bloody well, I reckon. 152 pound-foot of torque, which is nice and flat from sort of around 5,000 revs through to the top, and 202 brake horsepower. So, yeah, there's something good here. That's more power than I've actually achieved with a SCHRICK 316 cam. So, now, the rolling road. How does it compare to the rolling road? Well, not too bad. The rolling road we're referring to here is actually TNR down at Raynham, and I know the two Steves, and I reckon they're generally pretty on the ball. Now, there's slight differences between the numbers I got and the numbers they got, but there is always going to be differences between dynos and even rolling roads day to day. Atmospherics change, you know, rundown losses change, different day, different conditions. So, you know, we're actually comparing two completely different types of dyno, i.e. an engine dyno to a rolling road, plus we've got a different days, not only that, a couple of years apart, although, say, the engine spec actually is the same. The modifications I made were, we've switched it to steel rocker arms to cope better with RPM, and I've made some oil-way modifications to help it live better at high RPM. But I haven't done anything to actually change the performance of the engine. The cam's timed in the same. We haven't planed anything off the head or block. Fundamentally, the engine is the same as when TNR dynoed it. So what did they get? Well, they actually got the same 152 pound-foot torque. Their brake horsepower figure wasn't quite the same, but something you have to realise is that on the dyno here, the dyno is directly recording RPM from the crank. Well, it's not, it's recording it off the absorber. Whereas on a rolling road, the RPM is a number derived from the rollers. They drive the vehicle at 60 miles an hour on the rollers, read the engine RPM from the car's ECU, rev count, or whatever it's using, timing light, whatever, and then input that figure into the dyno software. So the RPM is only truly 100% accurate at 60 mile an hour. When they're flat out, and I think when they rev this out, it was something like 126 mile an hour. So, you know, tyre growth or the lack of it, whatever, has got to have a slight effect on the high RPM recorded on a rolling road. But here, we were talking pretty close. Let's say I recorded 202 RPM. I recorded 202 brake horsepower at 7,600 RPM. And TNR actually recorded 198 at the same RPM, which is 4 different. Well, it could just be the engine's a lot more, the engine's freed up over the years because it's the same pistons in the same bores. Interestingly, if I take the dyno numbers back 100 RPM, I got 199 at 7,500. So, and to be honest, in this instance, bloody close. You know, I'm more than happy that actually the numbers I get are pretty comparable to what the two Steves got. So, yeah, I think that's a plus point for all. And all I've got to do now is tighten the bolt. I forgot to do it when I did the tappets. Remove the engine, put it back in the car, and give it back to Joel. So, you know what to do, guys. If you like the video, you know, click, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Really helps. I'll catch you on the flip side.